Hello 7th graders, welcome to perspective drawing number 3. I'd like to begin by taking you on a little tour of exceptional works of perspective drawing. This is a technique that we'll be learning later in the block, a very challenging drawing indeed, staircases, as you will come to find out. Here we have extrapolation in full view. Notice the columns getting smaller and smaller as we move from right to left, and the trapezoid shape. Here we have an exceptional form of perspective, great detail, very, very challenging piece of work. Here we have a photograph of Roman columns that are visually going into perspective from right to left. And now we have a more abstract form of perspective called single point perspective, which we will be learning later in our block. And that brings us to the School of Athens by Raphael. Notice the perspective here. You have Aristotle down below. I'm not sure if you're able to see it very clearly. And Plato is the one robed in red up top. Very, very famous painting indeed that has an exceptional use of perspective. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to review and highlight some of the differences between the T-square and the triangle. Some of you have one or the other, and some of you have both. So, with the T-square, I have to make sure that my paper is totally at a right angle with my desk, because this T-square is going to hug the end of the desk. That way, I can use it to make an absolutely straight line. Like so. The limitations of the T-square is that I have to constantly move my paper in order to get that straight line. However, you can arguably use the T-square to make the straightest lines possible. You can also use a triangle to do much of what you can do with the T-square. Let's say that I wanted to make a right angle. To make a right angle, I'm going to start with a single line, and then I'm going to line up one edge flush with the line, and this angle right here is a perfect 90 degrees. So, if I line this side of the triangle perfectly with the line, then this right here should be a perfect 90-degree angle. Yeah? So some of you will be using one or the other, and some of you will be using both. Now we're going to go ahead and review extrapolation, and then we're going to move forward into vanishing point. As you can see on the chalkboard here, I have a trapezoid. To extrapolate that trapezoid, I'm going to take, can't use this straight edge on this because it doesn't go all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and exchange the triangle for a longer straight edge that's a more appropriate tool. Hopefully at this point, this will be some review for you. So I've extrapolated this one time. Now let's go ahead and do it one more time. Being careful and conscious of where my lines are so that I don't confuse them. This is where I'm going to make my next extrapolation point. Excuse me, extrapolation line. Notice that I use the top of the chalkboard here to make a perfect right angle. Great. Now, if I take the lines of the trapezoid and I extend those lines all the way out, eventually my trapezoid is going to turn into a triangle. The point at which these two purple lines meet is known as the vanishing point. The line that goes at a right angle to my posts, if you will, is known as the vanishing line. The question now becomes, how do I continue extrapolating into this triangle? I'll let you think about that for a few minutes. The question is, how do I keep these orange lines going? I can't just put them in at random. They need to have a mathematical relationship and be true and precise. How do I do that? I'd like to make a brief correction to some of my language that I've been using over the last lecture around the word extrapolation. Extrapolation actually refers to what we're trying to do here, trying to find the value of this unknown space. This, what we've been doing already, is known as interpolation, working within a known space. Now we're going out into the great unknown, and it's tricky to figure out how we can continue making these vertical lines in perspective out here without much to work on. After looking at my chalkboard for a long, long time, I think I've discovered how we can continue making vertical lines in perspective all the way to our vanishing point. As you can see, I've labeled some of these points, A, B, C, and D, and this middle point here is called point E. Remember, the middle point E is along the vanishing line here, which is essentially a right angle from the vanishing point all the way to our first vertical line. If I draw a line from point A through point E, and a line from point C through point E, now I've made our way a bit further. Now, what is the right thing to do next? I'll give you a few moments to ponder that. Hopefully you've realized that these two new points right here should create a vertical line. How do we know that? Well, let's look at our very first two long diagonals. This long diagonal cuts through the midline of here and then comes down to the edge of our triangle. From that edge sprouts up a vertical line. Same thing from here. This line cuts through the midline of this vertical line and then comes up to the top of our triangle, forming the top part of a vertical line. So therefore, from point A through E to here, and from C through E to this unknown point, we should be able to create a vertical line. Indeed, it works. Now we can go ahead and repeat this over and over again until we get vertical lines that go all the way to the vanishing point. I'll do it really fast. Well, first I'll do it slow, and then I'll do it faster so that I won't take too much of your time. So again, I'm going to go to the next to last vertical point. I'm going to go through the middle, and it's very important that you have your vanishing line so you know exactly where middle is. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom side. So I'm going to go from the next to last vertical line, which is here. Here's the last vertical line, next to last. From there, I'm going to go through the middle. And these 2 points should come together to form another vertical line. I'm going to repeat this process over and over again until I get all the way to the vanishing point.